Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat Podcast on the Serious Angler Network, presented by Rec Lending. And today's show, guys, is one that I've been excited for quite some time. I think it's been cool for folks who have listened kind of through my journey in starting this podcast from COVID until now. Really, for me, it's been super eye-opening, and it's been fun to see my goals change throughout life and different things. And I think something that's been clear, or maybe has been kicked around through some of these different interviews that I've done, has been like, hey, I think there's a route here in the fishing world that some people aren't, and I don't think it's for everyone, but I think there's a capable route. There's capable people to do this route, and that's to build a business where you can step away from said business to go fish tournaments rather than necessarily trying to make everything on the sponsor dollar side. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that. And we have sponsors with this podcast and sponsors fishing wise, right, that support all of us. And that's an incredible way to go. But I think there's something to be said for not having to worry financially fishing tournaments, because we know how stressful that can be. This is a guy that, in my opinion, has done that. And I wanted to dig into his brain about that. And that's what this show's all about, is the business side of the fishing industry and seeing how different folks make a living in and outside of the industry to be able to do things. So without further ado, he's now a celebrity status. We've got Mr. Kevin Rogers. How's it going, Kevin?
Celebrity status. I like that. Yes. Thanks for having me. I love the show. I love that the different guests you have on. It's really cool. I've been listening to them on to and from fishing, and they've been great. I love to get the different guests that you have on. Adam, it's great.
I appreciate that, man. Well, dude, I've been following you for quite some time on social media and everything else. And of course, and I think I heard it on a Panger show too. Has done an interview just around Coach Prime, Bass Cat boat delivery. Yeah. That's what I meant by the celebrity status. Yeah. But first of all, let's hear about that. I think we got to at least.
So it's a funny world, right? So Deion started following me on Instagram, and he was following me for I don't know how many months before I even knew it. I didn't even know he was following me on Instagram. And backstory on me, I was a tournament crappie fisherman with my father. We tournament crappie fished all over the country. We fished over 500 professional crappie tournaments in our lives. I had my own line of signature series rods, reels, lures. I made lures for Bobby Garland Baits. I hosted Bobby Garland TV. It was a crappie YouTube channel for Bobby Garland for 5 years. I got to make new lures for Bobby Garland every year. And we'll get into why I did it. I did it all for my dad. I never really wanted to be a professional crappie fisherman. I didn't have money to tournament fish. I didn't have time to pre-fish. I didn't have time to do any of that, but my dad did. So I just rode his coattails, and we tournament crappie fish because I was trying to build my own brand and my own company at the same time. But back to Prime. Prime started following me because of my crappie prowess, and I was fishing. I'd always go to Texas, and I'd catch these giant crappie down at Lake Fork and Lake of the Pines down in Texas, and I would tag Texas fishing. And Deion was searching Texas fishing because that's where he lives. And next thing you know, I see this comment. It says, "Take me fishing." I'm like, well, who's this guy? Well, it was Deion Sanders. And that was about 8 years ago. And we have been friends ever since. Wow. And he is everything you want him to be plus some. He is that. He is everything you see. He's one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. It's funny to say that I'm friends with Deion Sanders, but I'm definitely friends with Deion Sanders. And Deion he's bigger than life. So, and Deion's going to step into the outdoor industry here. You're going to see some Deion Sanders stuff in the outdoor industry in the next 12 months. And when he sets his mind to, he's not going to stop, right? That's who those people are. That's who these, when you meet these type people, he always says to me, he said, we're going to win. We're going to win. And what he means is win life. We're going to win life. And you got to be good at life. And Deion is really good at life. I think I'm really good at life. There's a lot of people that are still struggling with life, right? He said, we're going to win life. That's what we're going to do. Absolutely, coach. And I'm going to help coach the best I can, but I won't go into more details about that. But yeah, it was great. I get a new Bass Cat every year. I've been a spoiled brat for about 30 years, and I've been sponsored by them for a long, long time. Long relationship with Bass Cat. Great boat company. And I posted my brand new 2024 Caracal, and Deion simply said, "I want your old one," or he said, "I need your old one." And Basscat
Okay.
reached out and said, "We got it. You call coach and tell him we're going to build him his own custom Basscat," and that's what happened. And I got to deliver it to his house and go in and eat lunch with him, and we got to fish with Deion, and it's not the last time this is going to happen, is all I can say. So Deion will be in the outdoor industry in the next 12 months. You'll see it coming, which is good for the industry, right? You think grow the sport, grow the sport, grow the sport. Well, how much can we grow the sport with the people that are in it? Right? We've been doing it. We're all in it. We all love anyone watching this podcast, listening to this podcast is just like you and I that are completely ate up, eat, sleep, drink, wake up in the middle of the night, setting the hook, right? We've all done that, thinking about it nonstop. Well, there's a whole bunch of people who don't know why we're ate up with it or even understand it, right? You wish you could give that passion to them. Well, someone as big and as powerful with a social media following like Deion could definitely help the outdoor industry. So it's all good, right? I mean, anytime you have anytime you see The Rock bass fishing in his backyard, it explodes, right? Oh my gosh, Dwayne
Right.
Rock Johnson, he's bass fishing. It just blows up. Same with Deion. And Deion, I can tell you, I mean, being in the boat with him, I mean, he's a world-class athlete, right? He didn't backlash. He didn't get hung up. He didn't hit the bank. The man's got some skills. Hey, if he wants to do something, he's going to do it. And he loves catching. He don't like fishing. He likes catching. So,
got it. Got it.
So we launched that new Basscat on Deion's private lake, stocked with Florida strain F1 bass right in his front yard in Texas. It was an awesome day, and more to come on that for sure. So
that's so cool, man. Well, cool to hear that there's more to come. I totally agree with your sentiment around growing the sport, right? You hear it all the time, and it's the truth. It's like we all pump it up like crazy, but like we are this big. Like there's so much more outside of this that is untapped.
People and people I know, like I own a construction company, right? I own a construction company in Kansas City. I have 190 employees. There's maybe 2 of them that understand what I do when I leave that office and go fishing. They don't. I mean, just my small little world that I'm in. You times the millions and 300 million people or whatever is in the United States. They don't have a clue what we're talking about, right? They think we're going up and tying to a tree and throwing out barbers and drinking beer. They don't understand the whole turbine aspect of it, and I don't know if they ever will. But to grow the sport of fishing, we need people like Deion to be involved in it for sure.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's dead on. Yeah. The amount of conversations I've had in my life where someone will mention like, oh yeah, Adam fishes tournaments. He travels all over, blah, 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 blah. And then people are just, completely like left field have no, I mean, my brother's wedding was last weekend in California, and it was like, people had no idea. And it's like, guys, 2 hours from you, there are giants everywhere here. Like we are not far from the Delta, and it is a blast, and no one knows about it. So it's just, it's a little disheartening sometimes to think about it that way, but I totally agree. That's the way to grow things. And glad to hear there's more coming. I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, Kevin, I think in kind of that intro, we talked about what we were going to talk about on today's show, big things, but background in the crappie space with your dad, super fun, super cool. Glad to hear that you were able to do that with your dad while growing your business. But your business, Structure Projects, right? Tell us a little bit about that, how that all came about, and then, like you said, 190 employees now, but when did that all start? What did that look like from the beginning?
Yeah, it's a long, crazy journey that is definitely the American dream, to be honest with you. And I actually own 2 companies. I actually own an architectural firm as well. So I own 2. I am the 100% owner of 2 companies. One's construction, and then one's a design firm that does the actual drawings and architects, right? They're architects, and they're in St. Louis, Missouri. Just started. I mean, I graduated high school in 1991. Thought I was going to be this football star, super fast kid, had all these scholarships. I went to college and I realized I was fast from my hometown. Not like this isn't going to work. And I hate school. I barely passed school. I couldn't stand, I sucked. I was a D- student. I barely got out of there. I thought I was going to play football or baseball. None of that happened. So I'm like, oh boy, I need a job. And I found this company that I now own. I went to work there as a carpenter in 1991. Adam, I know you probably don't even know what 1991 was, but that's what I went to work.
I was not born yet.
Yes, that's when I started my career in 1991 for this company right here that I now own. Believe it or not, I started as a carpenter, wearing tools, doing all the things on a big, giant commercial construction job that carpenters would do, right? So we're a healthcare contractor. And at the time, we were doing healthcare for the government and healthcare locally here in Kansas City. And I was a carpenter, and I got in there, and I'm like, oh man, this kind of sucks, right? It's not fun hanging sheetrock over your head and being out in this cold. I'm like, how do I get out of it? And I thought, man, I will work my ass off. That was my thought process. I will work harder than every single person around me. Surely someone will notice. And that's what I did. I got there before everybody else, and I stayed before everybody else. And I worked. I mean, I did stuff that a lot of people may not want to do, right? To try to just advance. And I kept seeing in my career all these people in these different steps on the way up. I'm like, ooh, if I could just get his job. I would think in my mind, this sounds crazy. And this is my mindset. There's a lot of mindsets of people that end up being really successful. When I would meet whoever I was working for that day, whether it was a superintendent or a project manager, I would shake their hand. In my mind, I'd go, I'm going to take his job. I would say that to myself in my mind. My first week on the job in 1991, I shook this gentleman's hand, and I knew he was the superintendent, meaning he had authority over everyone else. I said, I'm taking his job. And in 9 months, I had his job. So then I met the project manager that was in charge of him. And I'm like, I shook his hand. I said, I'm taking your job. In my mind, I said that to myself. I can remember saying, that's how stupid, naive, dumb I was. But I'm taking his job. I'm going to be better at this than he ever was. And I took his job in 6 months. And it just kept going and going. And in my head, I kept saying this. And I did, believe it or not, I left the company I now own. I went to work for a giant corporation. They came knocking on the door to come get me and gave me this big giant bonus. So I left the company I now own and went to this giant $3.3 billion a year construction company and was running a whole division for them. And the company I started with, Structure Project, called me. The owner called me, said, come back. No, I'm over here at this giant corporation upset. He's like, no, come back. I'm going to sell you the company. I'm like, wow. On my way. And I took off and I came back to this company and he sold me the company. It was 8 years ago. He sold me the company.
Wow. So, okay. And just real quick on that, just because in my kind of entrepreneurial journey and everything else, I've been lately obsessed with the thought process of potentially buying businesses, buying boring businesses,
Scary.
Whatever it may be.
Scary as hell, by the way.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Like,
scary.
Very naive. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, was that a situation when he goes to sell it? Was there like a seller finance situation? Was he going to finance and do that kind of a thing for you, or what did it look like?
He financed it.
Okay.
Right. So there was. I didn't come up with $1 out of my pocket. Yes.
Wow.
I paid him over the last 8 years out of the profits of the company.
Yep.
Which was for him. So for the last 8 years, I've made no money, right? Every bit of I've had a good salary. I paid myself a salary. But you think of people that own companies, they make all this extra money. They take $1 million and they stick it in the bank account. They go buy lake houses and yachts. And every dollar I made over went to him. That was the agreement we had. I had this salary, so I was stuck. I owned the company. I was 100% owner, and I couldn't take any of the money because it all went to him.
Wow.
So, but is one way for me to buy the company. I was fine doing that. And that's all. If he's paid off 100%, I'm 100% owner. Now it's time for me to live a little bit, if you will. But there was times in 8 years where I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it. Right? I don't know. I mean, you had COVID hit. We had jobs shut down. I've got a $75 million project in California, and they won't let us in the gate at this Air Force base we're working at. I still have to pay these. I can't not pay them, and the clock's ticking, and money's losing. And yeah, it was a crazy, crazy time. But I made it through it. So it's definitely American dream. And yeah, here I am.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
Wow.
That's
So,
a lot. Yeah, I didn't have to
no,
go alone, right? But we had agreements in place that any bit of profit over my salary would go to him till he was paid in full.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so with something like that too, was it like he was able to, I mean, the relationship that you guys had, consult or help you if you needed
I,
anything during
I
that
talked to
8 year
him.
span?
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he was a serial entrepreneurial, right? So he just nonstop. He was one of the 15 companies that this gentleman owned, right? I
Okay.
was a construction guy. He wasn't a. He got a degree in construction management from K State, but he was more of the like he owned a pharmaceutical company. He owned a software company. He owned all these different companies. This was just one of the companies that he owned. So he wasn't like he was banking on this one company for his retirement. He had plenty going on. This was just a cherry on the top for him. But his business mind and his mindset is you need someone in your life like that, especially me. And I'm at the very top of this company, and we do $300 million a year in construction. There's no one to ask. It's me, right? Everyone's coming to me, and I'm saying, hey, we're all going right. Let's go right, and we go right like, oh, crud, we should have went left, right? It's me making every decision. So having someone in your court, they say that show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I mean, there's truth to that. I tell my kids that all the time. They look at me like I'm stupid. Who you hang out with is what you'll become, right? If you hang out with bad people, you're going to be bad. That's just how it is. If you hang out with really smart entrepreneurial people that think outside the box, you'll get some of that. There's no doubt about it. That's just
You're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. Like
absolutely.
you're the average of that. So
Absolutely.
spend your time with great people, and you'll be a better person.
Absolutely. So this gentleman, I owe him no money. He's paid off 100%, but we still talk at least twice a month just about the economy and what's going on in the elections, and everything affects everything in the world. He knows that. He sees it better. I'm just a fisherman. I'm just a dumb old fisherman that likes construction, right? He's more than that. He's in the stock market. He's looking at cryptocurrency. I'm not doing any of that. So he's a good sounding board for me, and someone I am really glad that I got to run into in my life. He changed my life forever, to be honest with you. So
yeah. Wow. No, super cool. That's yeah. Those are the connections that you hold on to, and you continue to grow those relationships. That's awesome.
and one thing I did with him that I kept saying I don't want to take people's jobs, but he was also willing to say, yeah, I want you to do this. And every time he asked me to do something, and he was running the company that I grew up in, right? So every time he asked me to do something, I said yes every single time, even though it sucked, even though I was going to be away from home for weeks on end, even though I wasn't getting paid what I thought should be getting paid, or I was driving on my own dime and not being reimbursed for items I didn't have a company truck. I just kept saying yes. Yes, yes. That's all I would say. I never said no. I never asked for a raise. In 33 years in this industry, I never asked for a raise, and I never said no. And you think, well, you get taken advantage of. You could have. I could have, but he didn't. I now own the company. So, I mean, I got people that work for me now that will ask for a raise that absolutely don't deserve one. And I tell them that. And I say, when you deserve a raise, you won't have to ask for one. Trust me. So yeah, it's an interesting ride for sure. And all this has to do with fishing. So, and here's the weird thing: my whole life, as a 20-some-year-old kid, I never really thought about money. I thought this was my dream as a 20-year-old kid. Here was my dream. When I realized I wanted to be a football player, baseball player, I was like, here it was my ultimate dream. This is absolutely true. If I could afford a brand new bass boat and a brand new truck, my life would be set. That's all I thought. I have made it. So I've made my goal. So that was my whole goal in this whole crazy world. I'm 52 years old. And that's all I ever wanted. And I get one of those every single year. So I've exceeded my goal. So,
oh man, fantastic. Love the American dream. Well, so okay. So now buy the company 8 years ago. And when you're in a role, in that CEO role, so now when did the transition go from crappie world to bass world, full-fledged, everything like that? What
Yes,
stage was that?
that was 4 years ago. So my
Okay.
dad,
So you're
yeah,
working,
it's been
stabilize
5
the
years.
company, but you're still fishing. You're still fishing during
Oh, yeah,
this
never quit
whole time.
fishing. Yeah, never quit fishing. Just couldn't do it as much. And like I said, I crappie fished with him because he owned his own business. My dad, my father, he would go pre-fish. He would go find the fish. I would pull in there after work on Friday, sleep in the motel, wake up the next day, and go to wherever he said we were going. I never pre-fished. I never knew what we were doing, and we were. My dad was really, really good, right? He's a big name in the crappie world, and we won 34 crappie tournaments in 5 states in the years we were doing it. Right, we had all these sponsors and everything. He was really good. And I drove the boat. He just told me where to go, and we would both stand in the front of the boat. And we would. What's weird? You think bass fishermen think crappie fishing differently than what it actually happens in the tournament world. We would crappie fish probably faster than 95% of all bass fishermen.
Really?
So yes, we were power crappie fishing, and I had a seminar years ago. It was called Power Crop, and we were going extremely, and we were dropping giant jigs down the side of visible timber. Right, we'd find the timber, like we'd go on one side, he'd go on the other. No bite, we'd go to the next one, and the next one, the next one. We'd find a pattern throughout the day. It was crazy. So we were. It was always more, if you thought about it, was more the style of a bass fisherman than it ever was a crappie fisherman. There's no tying to a tree, throwing bob. We didn't do any of that. We were using 30-pound braid, quarter-ounce head, 3-inch baits, and boom, and boat flipping every crappie we caught. And it was more of a power, dirty water slugfest than it was finessey crappie fishing, ripping their lips. Like, oh no, that's not what we were doing. It was completely different. So it was a lot like bass fishing anyway, but I was always in love with bass fishing. I never quit bass fishing. Every free time I got, I would bass fish. Huge, like watched every classic, could tell you who's won every classic, been to the classic, know all the players. I mean, it's been my life. Crappie fishing was a way for me to compete and not spend my own money. I'd spend my dad's money. Right? Because he would pay for everything. I would show up, we win a check, I'd give it to him, and I'd go back to work. I had a family to raise, and I do not understand how these 20-year-old kids are tournament bass fishing. I do not get it. At a 52-year-old man, I don't understand it. I mean, I guess they're getting sponsor dollars. I don't chase sponsors. I don't do that anymore. Right? I have sponsors. I got some great sponsors that I've had forever. Bass Cat, Pro Guide, Batteries, Beat Down Outdoors. These guys, they're friends, right? More than they are sponsors. I don't take sponsors' money anymore. And that's so taboo to say in the fishing industry. They would probably crucify me if I said that. I don't take their money. I don't want their money. I want them to give it to someone who needs the money. I don't take it. So there must be a lot more money there in the fishing industry than I know, but I don't know how you do this at 20 years old and not have a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I guess I kind of speculate on things too around some of that, and certainly my viewpoint on any of this is I have never. One thing, something that kind of irks me is when people say like, "Oh, must be nice to have mommy and daddy buy this boat or whatever it may be," and it irks me just because it's like someone sacrificed for that, and if that person's parents, if that is what they want to do with their money to support their kid, in my opinion, that's their decision.
Oh, no, yeah, I
And
don't. Oh, yeah,
that's, you know what I mean? And that's like, to me, it just annoys me because anyone who is casting a negative light on someone to getting something, you're just wasting negative energy. It's like, well, if you don't have that, that's okay. Go work for it or go, build it to where you can. And
yeah. No,
so,
I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not insinuating the daddy's money thing at all. That's not. I hope I didn't come across that way because
no,
I
you're
think
not.
no. And what I think is there is nothing. Why is there anything wrong with a family supporting and loving their child? There's nothing wrong with that. That should be the goal of everyone, right? Because you see it nowadays. There's some young kids in the Elite Series, and I know they gave Patrick Walters a bunch of crap for his parents always being at the weigh-ins. No, they're supporting their child. That's what every parent should do. As I'm with you, but I don't.
My point, I guess I wanted to preface with that before I got to my point, because my opinion is like, I do think there's money in the fishing industry that is being distributed and sponsor dollars. Like that is happening. Right. But I think the vast majority of things, there is a backer at some point. Like it's just too expensive. Right. I mean, we're talking about 80, $90,000 boats, trucks, and then the expenses that we all have done traveling around the country. It's like,
Yeah.
this is not like it is. You got to have some support somewhere. And so, in my opinion, that's, I guess my point is, I just wonder if there's a lot of dry powder out there from support from family, friends, that sponsor that's maybe like, like I've talked to plenty of situations where it's just like, yeah, I met this guy who is just is wants to see me succeed, and he writes me a very big check every year, right?
I
And
heard
it's like
that
a,
on, yeah,
you know,
I heard Kyle Patrick say that, which is, you know what, good for him. That's amazing.
right? That's 100%. It's like, man, and good for
Jealous,
you finding that
jealous.
relationship, and I'm like, good for you, right? Like
Yeah,
that's my thought process with things. But
right. Yeah,
anyways,
that,
that's my point. Is I think it's
so
some of that.
so I fish the NPFL. That's what I fish now, right? And that happened 4 years ago. My dad retired from crappie fishing. I jumped in. I said, "This is my chance. I'm still got my health. I try to take care of myself so that I can fish, right? So that's the only reason I take care of myself so I can fish. Stand in that boat all day long and fish. I still feel like I can compete. The problem is, what I didn't know the last 30 years of crappie fishing is everything all these bass guys knew. And what I mean is the little nuances. There's little things about every little lake you go to that I didn't have a clue. Or I didn't know, 4 years ago that I could sit in 50 foot of water at Lake Hartwell and throw a spook and they'd come out of 30 foot of water and destroy it. What? Right? Oh, what's a herring like? Well, what does that mean? So I'm connecting all these pieces together. I'm a fisherman. I can run a boat. I can read the topo map. I can read all. I can do all that. But every lake has its own little nuances, right? And that's why it's so fun to me. I'm learning all these. At 52, I'm learning about all these different lakes. I'm going to the Great Lakes next month to
Right.
fish Saginaw Bay. Incredible fishery. One of the coolest places on planet Earth. Just for largemouth, smallmouth, the whole deal. And it's got its own little nuances and the wind currents and all this craziness that is bass fishing and tournament bass fishing in around your home, right? And fishing your local waters can be really easy, right? Getting in your truck and driving to Florida when you live in Missouri or driving to Saginaw Bay and not know what you're doing is challenging and hard. And I love it because I want to be challenged. So there's so many things I don't know that I'm remembering and I'm picking up at 52-year-olds about this bass world, right? So I love it. I absolutely love it. It's keeping me, it's like I'm a young kid again in a john boat fishing. That's what I feel like when I fish the NPFL. The NPFL is not, it's not getting the hype that that the elites does. It shouldn't. BASS Bassmasters is the ultimate. If Tommy Sanders and Mark Zoni listen to and Dave, it's amazing. They're the cream of the crop, right? But NPFL is doing some stuff, and each year you see bigger names come in. You got Kyle Wetcher, Drew Cook, Patrick Walters. These guys are they're coming. John Cox. These guys are coming. We got Zach Burge this year, right? I'm sitting there takeoff, and I got Tommy Biffle on here and Patrick Walters here. I'm smashed in between them. It's pretty cool. The NPFL is what I like about it is the tournament itself is I've fished hundreds of tournaments in my life. It is the best run tournament trial I've ever fished from the ownership. It's absolutely amazing. Anyone who fishes it will tell you that. And there's no drama. There's no crazy, bass fishing tournaments gets a bad name with all the BS and the protest and all stupid. None of that happens in the PFL. The owners don't put up with it. They run it the way you want it to be ran. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm still learning. So that happened 4 years ago, and I've been all in ever since then.
Wow. Very cool. And no, the NPFL, I've heard that from so many different interviews that we've had and friends that fish the NPFL that have said it is seriously the best run stuff. Love what they're doing. I follow a lot of the events. I follow everything that I can when I can, watching live, fishing wise. I think they do a fantastic job with everything. And I like their structure too, the way tournaments are spread out. And I like that they're going to places that not everyone else goes to either.
Right.
Like Saginaw Bay. I mean, that's kind of been sometimes, but the Texas tournaments, right, and things that are just different that I enjoy seeing. So super big kudos to them. I think they're doing great work over there. And you've got 3 more tournaments this season with them.
Yeah, we have Saginaw Bay, and then we go to St. John's in September, which, oof, boy,
Mm,
Florida in
mm.
September. But, I mean, I, I've, I have bass fished in Florida 3 tournaments now. I've got to check all 3 times. So people say they hate Florida, and I just go down there. I don't know that I'm supposed to hate it, right? I just go down there and I have a blast. Went down. What was the last tournament we had there? Kissimmee. I had a blast. I was catching. I found a shell bed, found several of them, and I was catching hundreds of keeper bass a day on a jerkbait with live scope, like doubling up. It was a blast.
Wow.
And then before that, we were at Harris Chain, and I found a shad spot. So I've enjoyed my trips to Florida. I hope I don't jinx myself, knock on wood. So I've actually enjoyed going to Florida. I've been to St. John's before, fishing crappie. It's interesting navigating the manatees and the no wake zones and all that stuff. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, but it'll be interesting. I can't wait to get there, honestly. And then we have, to wrap it up, we have one close to my home here, the closest tournament we'll probably ever have to my home, which is Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
So, in my short 4-year bass fishing career, I've won one bass tournament in my life, and it happened to be, it was a 120 boat field, and it was a solo pro, a local tournament trail here in Missouri, and I won it at Lake of the Ozarks. So I actually am getting ready to build a home at Lake of the Ozarks starting in December here. So that's
Very nice.
I mean, as far as home waters, that and Truman Lake are definitely my home lake. So I'm looking forward to Lake of the Ozarks. It's if you've never been Lake of the Ozarks.
What time of year is that?
It's October. Yeah,
okay.
So St. John's in September. We go August, September, and then October is Lake of the Ozarks, last one of the year. So my goal is try to slide up into the top 40. And get in the championship, which you make the championship NPFL. It's no entry fee, right? And you fish for $100,000. I was in 16th place day one at Lake Hartwell. I love Lake Hartwell. I like how hyper it is, kind of like me. You can run, or you don't. Lake Hartwell, you don't win on one spot. And that's been my whole life, is running and gunning and fishing, pick up trolling motor and going. So it fits my attitude. I was in 16th place day one. I got day 2, and I throw my trolling motor down. Nothing, dead, never works. The whole day shot. We're running my whole entire tournament. So that happens in this season. It screws up your whole entire season. I was in the top 40 in the points, and just that one day of not catching any fish because I couldn't even fish. It screwed up my whole entire tournament. So I could climb my way out. We just finished Pickwick. I took 23rd at Pickwick, which was absolutely.
Brutal.
It was above. It exceeded any of my expectations. I thought, Pickwick, and I don't know the Tennessee River. I don't get the current, and I don't know what. It was unbelievable. I had a 21-pound bag the second day, fishing out deep, throwing a 10-inch worm on old stumps that I'd found on the river channel. I'd throw that worm down there, and I mean, they pumped 5-pounders. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun at Pickwick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in the old stumps. They were down in the root wads. It was really, really throwing a big old 10-inch worm, half-ounce weight. It was so much fun.
Love it. Love it. Well, man, so first of all, Lake of the Ozarks, that place has got to be, for me, top, I don't know, 5 places I've fished in the country. I love it there. I fished a couple Toyota series there, and just had an absolute blast. I love, first of all, from a crappie perspective, that's like probably the one. I fished a Toyota series there one time early in the year. I think it was like February. And I could not believe it. I would just get distracted in practice to go in the middle of, every channel and just catch crappie for like every 10 minutes. Like, this will be fun for a minute. And I'd go back and do things, but super healthy fishery. I was impressed with that always.
Yeah. That now, Lake of the Ozarks in
summertime, never been there.
Never
been in
the Don't go. They moved, the NPFL moved our last event on Pickwick. We didn't have an off day on Wednesday, so that we didn't have to fish on Saturday, because Pickwick's got giant boats on it too. They like to party at Pickwick too. It doesn't hold a candle to Lake of the Ozarks. If it's 85 degrees at Lake of the Ozarks, it is the most dangerous lake in the United States. I don't care what anyone says. There's 4 or 5 people that die there every single year because of boat accidents. It's dangerous. I won't let my family go out on the lake after dark. Everyone's drunk. They're all partying. They're running at each other. It's dangerous. Now, is it an amazing fishery? Yes, it can be. But after June, I'm not going to Lake of the Ozarks. So we hopefully it gets the cold weather and everyone's back at school come October, so it won't be as crazy. But if it's 85, they'll bring out them quad 300 and go up and down. It's horrible. And what happens on that lake is the boat waves, they hit the seawalls and then just comes back. So it can't dissipate. It just keeps going all day long. It is, I've been at the I've been to Erie, I've been to Huron, and nothing compares to Lake of the Ozarks when those boats are out. It's horrible, dangerous, and I don't like it. Yeah. It's my own lake. So don't go there in the summertime and think you're going to go bass fishing. So, yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. Well, one thing I want to think through is, okay, you're in CEO role. What systems do you have in place? How are you able to take the time to go fish a tournament, go on an elk hunt, do these types of things? I mean, big picture things like that. I think everyone hears this, business owner gets to get to this level and can kind of take off and do these things. But what systems have you put in place to be able to do that?
Yeah. And it hasn't always been that way, right? I had to build the business. I had to get it established. I had to get it where it was making money and paying off my debt, right? And once I did that, I put systems into place. I have 3 gentlemen that run the company. So I have 3 gentlemen that I know. I actually have 4. I have 4 guys that I know without a shadow of a doubt have my best interest at heart, and I overpay them. I take my money that I'd be making a profit and I give it to them. And I say, here's your money. The more money we make, the more money you're going to make. Here you go. Go make as much money as you want. I'm going fishing. And they're like, go. And they run the company. A lot of owners, they get greedy, right? They get greedy and they see that money as money they could have put in their pocket. Like I started saying this thing, all I need is a new boat and a new truck. Right. That's all I need. I don't need a yacht. I don't need a private plane. I want a new truck, a new boat. I want to be able to go fishing and not worry about that company. So I pay these 4 gentlemen extremely well. I mean, extremely well, to where they're running the company. I meet with them every single Monday, whether I'm in or not. And we say, okay, this is the week. This is what we have. Where do you need me? What do you need me to do? And they tell me what's going on and I leave. And I have a CFO that I work directly with. And I trust them wholeheartedly, and they run the company. They go get the work, they run the work, they do it. It took a while, right? So they'd come to me and go, hey, by the way, I think we need to lay off Cheryl. And I'm like, time out. Lay off Cheryl. Don't ever come in here ever again. I'm using that as an example. We didn't lay off someone named Cheryl.
Right, yeah.
Example, right? They'd come to me and they go, we think we need to lay off Cheryl. I said, then you probably should have laid her off a month ago then, if you're thinking this. And I've got them there now where they lay people off. I don't even know it. So they're running the actual company, right? I still know exactly what's going on, but the day-to-day activities, I'm not in the weeds. I've set it up where they can run it and I'm going to go fishing. Right. Yeah. And it's funny, something will happen. They'll call me, sorry to bother you when you're fishing. That's how they start every folk. I'm not, it's going to be okay. Let's talk business. Right. There are times where owning this business will hamstring you, and it woe is me. Right. But it's not, I can't focus full time on fishing. There's certain times where I have to be at meetings and there's nothing in the world that can stop me from going to that meeting, whether that's a tournament or not. I had Deion Sanders and Randy Moss on FaceTime. They're like, come take us fishing. Randy Moss, Deion Sanders. I said, I cannot do that. I have a meeting tomorrow. I have to be at. I had to tell them no. Right. Last year, this cyclical world of construction, it just doesn't keep going. You have to go get more, and you have to go get more, and you have to get more. And we had all this work, and it was all dwindling down last year. And in September, I had all this work out, and I was fishing an NPFL event. I got off the water and got on conference calls during the tournament. Yep. And I didn't care. That $100,000 first place that I would have won in the NPFL, if I could have got lucky to win it, was not going to replace the $350 million worth of construction work we actually won, because I got off the phone, spent time, and worked through these estimates, and that's what we procured. So you got to weigh it out sometimes, right? And guys that are fully focused on fishing, and that's their whole job, they don't understand. They will never have to do that, but that's fine by me. I know the business is way more important than fishing ever will be in my mind. It just has to be. It's what rules the roost for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's huge. And that's a sentiment too, just personally for myself to remember. I've certainly been in situations. I was on Lake Oahe in South Dakota fishing a tournament, and I had a call that like had to deal was
Yeah.
going through big deal. Like this is sorry, have to find cell service. My next 2 hours in this tournament, like I'm
Yeah.
stuck. Like this
Right.
is more important at this time. And I've been lucky enough to spend the time in the boat. I fished a lot as a co-angler, just for a while, just traveling. Honestly, tip Southwest. You can fly with fishing rods, whatever you need to do. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been able to fish with a lot of guys again similar to yourself that have the ability to pull away from their business and go fish.
Yeah.
And same deal, like they're busy at times. And it's funny too because the same deal, like a good close friend of mine who's doing very well in the opens right now, he'll get a call from his assistant and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you while you're fishing." And it's just like, it is
Yeah.
what it is. Let's figure it out. Like, no big
No,
deal.
this
But
is
like
fine.
it's
Yeah.
it's a balance that you have to kind of figure out. But you're totally right. Like I've been jealous of that situation of like, well, some people don't have to worry about this at all. Like they're just fishing. There's
Right.
no mental distractions, and that's very powerful. But I totally agree. Like that's where my mindset has gone anyway. It's a good thing to remember as I try and grow. Is like it's okay to like sometimes you can't have it all, right? You can't just
Well,
do
yeah,
this.
you have to make a decision. And I made that decision early on. Am I going to be a professional fisherman or am I going to be a business owner? And I knew this business owner thing. I knew fishing was going to be here. I just knew it. I could see. I knew there was a path to become this business owner, businessman. That's what I kept trying to succeed. And fishing was always over here. And I mean, there's look at it. I mean, I go do the seminars for the high school teams around Canada. I get asked all the time to come do it, and I do it. The first thing I raise your hand if you want to be a professional fisherman. Oh, all of them, right? Every one of them. Oh, there's 300 of them.
Right.
There's 300. How many of those 300 only make money on fishing? 50? Maybe 50? Not even that?
10%.
Not even
I would say
that. Your
yeah.
odds are better to get in the NFL than to be a professional fisherman. So the number one thing you should do, you should think about if you want to be a professional fisherman, is go get a hell of a job. That's why I tell every single high school kid I go find yourself a good job. Well, you have to have a good. If you want to be a professional fisherman, you better have a good job. Well, I mean, how many Jacob Wheelers, Ken Van Dams, and Patrick Walters are there in the world? There's
Right.
less than 50.
Right.
There's just, Kyle Welcher, and there's some guys that are making a living doing it. That's not me. I'm not that good, right? And these kids that I'm sitting there talking to, they probably aren't as either, but they can still have a passion. You can still do this the rest of your life and love fishing and follow it, but go get yourself a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my advice.
I appreciate that sentiment, and I don't think it's talked about enough. I think that people, and I'm not trying to take away from anyone's dream. By all means, you've got to go and you can go do it. But I think that this route that we're discussing is one that needs to be talked about more because there's been so much heartache. As we talk about with 20-year-olds, like I also know that there's 20-year-olds who have crazy credit card debt and stuff, right? That have been throwing a lot of money into this too. So like there's some negatives here and it's worth pointing out and just discussing openly because I think everyone is kind of like doesn't want to talk about some of this stuff. But
the problem is all these high school and college kids, they all see Trey McKinney. Trey McKinney's gonna make a hell of a living being a bass fisherman. He's gonna be a bass fisherman as long as he wants to be. Right?
Phenomenal.
They see that. That's not the norm. He's not. Don't use him as your
a 0.0001%.
Yeah, he's the Jacob Wheelers. He's the Van Dam. He's gonna be that kid. You can already tell. He's young. He's made mistakes. The kid can fish out of this world.
Flat out.
Right? He's gonna have a hell of a career back. And these kids are looking at it going, well, I can do that. Go get you some. Go try. Go try. Not as easy as they're making it look. Go get you a good job. Always get the job and then go try to do it is what I would suggest everyone to do. Yeah. Take time off. Take time off without pay if you have to, if you want to chase the dream. But man, having a good job is hard to do because there is less than 1% of these guys making a living off bass fishing.
Right.
They have other gigs. There's no doubt.
Totally. Yeah. Good stuff. I think that's important to talk about and appreciate your openness and honesty with everything there. So I guess big picture for you next couple of years. So what is 2020? I know we're into July now, but are you planning on fishing NPFL for the coming years? What do things look like for you personally?
Yeah, I don't. I think I'll fish the NPFL as long as I can, as long as my health. I absolutely love them. I love the people. I love the owners. I love the competition. I mean, I get to fish against the names I mentioned earlier, some of the best bass fishermen in the world. Um, I love it. There's been years where I finished in the top 20 in Angler of the Year, and there's years like last year where I was focusing more on work than I was fishing, and it showed. I mean, you can't you get you half in, you half out. Well, when I'm all in, I can be a decent fisherman. I can hang and get in the Angler of the Year running and make the final. But when I'm focused on work, it shows. I'm in 60th and 80th, and I can't. That'll still happen. I still got to worry about the business. I got 190 families that are, relying on me to make the right decision for their livelihood. I'm going to do that over fishing, but um, and anything I fish other than that, I'd like to fish more of the opens, just because I fished fall this year. I liked it. I fished MLF invitationals last year, and to be honest, I didn't like them at all. I just didn't. It wasn't my deal. I didn't like them. I don't know. It didn't feel right. The opens felt a lot better. I know the competition's crazy, and I may never. I just for more experience, I liked the opens. I liked where they go, so I may try to get in all 9 of those next year just to see. Not any goal to make the elites or anything, like just more experience for me, different places. I love going, like most anglers. I like going places I've never been. I signed up too late this year. I'm on the waiting list. Like I'm like 48th for Leech Lake, which I really wanted to go to. I'm like 48 on the waiting list on the boater side. It's crazy.
I think it's really neat that they did that Midwest swing.
I love it. So
Sure
cool.
seems like there's a ton of folks that have signed up for that. I mean, all those are, like you said, are 50
I'm
plus waiting.
48th on the waiting list as of yesterday. They get the texting bass. I'm 48. That's how many boaters signed up for Leech Lake. It just looked like a cool place to go catch fish, and they really haven't had a big tournament there, so it'd be awesome to see when I wanted to go fish it bad. But I may try to get some of those. But yeah, NPFL for sure. I'm ride or die with them. I think there's only 9 anglers that have fished all 4 years of the NPFL, and I'm one of those 9 that have stayed the whole entire time. So I love that. I love that tournament trail. I mean, it's really really cool. I mean, 40th place pays $8,000. If you don't finish above 40th, you shouldn't get paid anyway. So I like that format. And what's my goal every time I go out? 40th to first. That's my goal every time I go out bass fishing for sure. So that and some opens be my goal. And then I think with my relationships that I've made, I think there might be some other crazy stuff in the fishing industry coming my way with TV shows and all kinds of nonstop. But we won't talk about that yet until those are up and going. So I may be a host of a television show here in the next 12 months, which would be really, really cool. At some point, I will walk away from my company. I'll do the same thing that my owner did to me. I will sell the company to the 3 guys that are running it now, and they know that, right? So that carrot is dangling in front of their face to own it, just like I did. So that keeps them motivated as well. That's one good way you can go fishing and keep those guys working. They know they're going to own it someday. So I'll walk away, and then this fishing deal will become full time for me. I mean, I'm 52, so I won't. I got 6 years. I'll be retired.
Very cool.
Fishing will be my full-time gig for sure.
Wow. Awesome. And you're very active on social and on, you've got a lot of followers on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all this stuff. So how do you manage all of that, man? Like how do you do
so Deion Sanders asked me that question. Man, who does your social media? I said, me. It's like, no, who does it for you? I said, me. He's like, you got a person that's doing it. I was like, that's me. I'm sitting in a conference room and I'm scheduling posts. And I'm boop, and then I'm scheduling posts. I've been, I'm old. I'm too old, so they didn't diagnose me with ADHD or AD. They didn't diagnose me with any of that. I was a hyper kid. I'm still hyper at 52. It's my best personality trait. It's my worst. My wife would say it's my worst personality trait. I can't sit still. I can't sit down and watch a movie with my wife. You might pull my teeth out. I can't sit still. I feel like I'm missing something. I can't sleep in, right? I have an automatic internal alarm clock in my head where 5 a.m., it don't matter where I'm at in this world, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. without alarm clock, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready for the day. If I sleep in, I feel like I'm missing something, like I missed the school bus. I mean, some people, are listening to this, they have no idea what I'm talking about, and other people will know what I'm talking about. I think it's either you have or you don't. I'm definitely a morning person, which my
Me
wife
too.
hates because she's a night person, and I'm
Yeah.
not. I lay my head down and I'm asleep in 5 seconds every night I go to sleep because I'm go 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 go, and I feel. I mean, this is our one shot, right? Be good at life, like Deion says. Let's be good at life, and what does that mean? Well, you can't be lazy and be good at life. You just can't. You're not going to be
Right.
successful in anything in this world if you're lazy. I don't care what it is. You can have the most talent in the world. If you're lazy, it's just going to show. So, and I feel like I got to keep working nonstop at something somehow. So, yeah, still got a lot of go-go juice for sure.
Got a lot of wood to chop. I like it.
Yes. Yep. So all that
So
social media and everything I'm doing, it's just me just doing it.
that's impressive, man. That's
Yeah.
impressive because you are very active. And I've always thought have a great social media presence. I 100% thinking like Deion is like, you got somebody back there, but it's you.
No,
That's awesome.
that's me. Yeah, it's me doing it. Yeah. It's crazy.
Love it.
Yep.
So I know you're a big hunter as well.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready. My last couple of years, my buddy Ty and I always talk about this. He's sitting in 8th right now in the Opens, Colorado guy.
Oh, wow.
And he and I are always just frustrated with these tournament schedules. More and more, I feel like I'm fishing in September, in October more than I ever have in the past.
Yes.
And I want to be archery elk hunting. That's what we both like
Mhm.
doing. And so, anyways, what are your plans? Do you have any hunting plans this year? I
Yeah,
know
so
you've seen stuff out west before. What do you do?
this is crazy. This is it sounds like spoiled rich guy stuff. Because it is. I've worked so the construction work I do, right? So I do healthcare, design, build, government work. It's very niche work. It's very not everyone can do what I'm doing because you have to be in this program to do it. So I work on Army and Air Force bases all over the country. That's where we're doing the majority of this work, and some naval and Marines. I've been working in San Antonio, Texas for 30 years. Every single year of my career, I have been in San Antonio working because San Antonio is a huge military city. A lot of people don't know that. You have Fort Sam Houston, which is massive. You have Lackland Air Force Base, which anyone in the Air Force, you have to go to Lackland to graduate. That's where it's the mothership. So I've been down there for 30 years. I have a mechanical guy down there that I've been using for 30 years. He is really, really good. I just give him every single job. I just give it to him. He doesn't have to bid it. I know he's going to finish. I know he's going to do it. And he owns, what's he own? He owns 15,000 acres on the border of Colorado and New Mexico.
Jeez.
And no one hunts it but me.
Jeez.
He has a full-time ranch hand that feed the elk so him and his wife can drive out there and listen to him bugle.
Oh my gosh.
And I had this giant job. This started 3 years ago. I had this giant job. And he's like, well, do I get the job? I said, I don't know. Can I go elk hunting? He's like, do I get the big job? I said, can I go? And we just bounced back and forth. I was giving him the job no matter what. He didn't know that.
Right.
And he said, yes, you can have the job. And I went out there and I took some of my employees, and these elk were, people think I'm in some high fenced area because it's unbelievable. There's nothing else like it. It's a weird part of Colorado and New Mexico. It looks all red rock. It looks like you're on Mars. It is, but, dude, there's no cell phone service for, I drive, I don't know, 150 miles with no cell phone, which is a little weird nowadays, right? It's in the middle of nowhere. And he just bought this property just to get away from the hustle and bustle of life. And he has a full-time ranch hand that he just posts full-time. This guy just goes around and feeds the wildlife and manages the cows and all this. And these elk it is unbelievable. And my wife has fallen in love with it. And I now have to give this guy work the rest of my life so she can go elk hunting. So, yeah, she shot a 500-inch elk last year. She shot the biggest one ever, 500 inches.
My gosh, I'm looking at it right now on your Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. And I always tell him to, find this kid that runs around, so just make sure she shoots the big one, every time. So, yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah. Then I go down to South Texas. South Texas is a weird one. It gets a bad rap for the high fence and all that crazy stuff. And the problem with Texas is they're all high fenced. They're all high fenced because if they don't keep their deer, right? So I go to a place down there that is high fenced, but they don't They don't breed. They don't do the crazy genetics with the silly antlers and all that. They're just wild, natural wild herd of whitetail. But we do go down there and shoot some giant whitetail down that thing. But he doesn't trap or breed. They're just wild, natural. You never see the high fence. But some people hate the high fence, some don't. And I don't have time to raise my own deer. So I just go down there and hire a guy, and I killed a 200-inch whitetail down there last year.
Jeez.
So,
yeah. That's
But,
awesome, man.
So my next, this sounds crazy. This is going to sound like a spoiled rich guy thing again. So my next thing that I'm doing, that I have my new thing in the next 5 years before I retire, I have bought here I live in Kansas City, Missouri. That's where my office is. I live outside of it. I have bought an old rock quarry. So my next endeavor, which is going on right now, it's been going for the last 5 months, is these rock quarries is a giant rock quarry with 50-foot walls where they took these rocks out, and there's 3 of them. I'm in there right now, and I'm building dams, and we're going to fill these suckers up, and that's going to be my final home. That's where I'm going to live. So these there's giant boulders. I mean, there's boulders sitting at the bottom of this thing that are bigger than your bass boat. And I'm putting dams in right now, and to fill them up, and there'll be 3 of them, and there'll be like 12 acres, 15 acres, and 20 acres on my property, and my house will sit way back in there, and that'll be my final home. So that's one of my projects right now that I'm working on personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's awesome, man.
Work hard, kids, is the moral of the story. If you work hard, you can do what you want to do.
You can do what you want.
Yeah.
I love it. It. Well, Kevin, man, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
I hope someone gets something out of this thing. It's not it. I wasn't a trust fund baby. There was times I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage. There was times I didn't have enough money to get to work. And all I kept doing was saying yes and working harder than everyone else. And that's, you don't hear that. You see people that inherited money and they didn't have that. Right. I wore the same pair of tennis shoes for all 4 years of high school. Okay. So that's where I came from. Right. So, man, there's nothing that will replace hard work. And you see these guys, regardless of their age and who they are, and they're out here bass fishing, they're being successful. Those guys are working their asses off.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You look at one, they're not just getting lucky. They are working their tails off. So hard work, you cannot replace hard work in anything in life. And hopefully people will hear that. And I think some people are born with it and some aren't. I just believe that.
Yeah. So, super inspiring, man. Super inspiring.
Well,
Love it. All right, man.
Well,
good luck at Saginaw Bay coming up here. Looking forward to following you there. But man, sometime we'll have to connect. I'll be at the Classic next year. I'm not sure if
I will too. I'm going to go to the Classic.
Okay. Yep. Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
All right, Kevin. Thanks for your time, man.
You bet.